Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Bluff City Magazine Podcast episode. I'm Amanda Avery, the editor-in-chief of this premier print and digital voice of the people of Memphis. We highlight movers, shakers, and change makers right here in the Bluff City. Today is MLK Day. We are celebrating him today, and joining me is just the perfect person for today's episode. She is a mother. She's an educator. She's also a thought leader, an advocate, a fighter for social justice and equity, and she is our District 12 Shelby County Commissioner, Commissioner Erika Sugarmon. Miss Sugarmon, how are you today?
Wonderful. You left two titles off.
Oh, well, come on. Share with us.
One title is because I'm the daughter of civil rights activists.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the children, we call ourselves the civil rights movement children.
The Civil Rights Movement Children. I love that. And what does that entail? And why do you have that name?
Well, because, our parents put us out there on the forefront. And so people don't understand when I tell them my childhood, it was different in a good way, because we were able to see people come through our house, like the Cows and the Hooks and the Basco Smith and all of them. And they were planning and strategizing right down the living room.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was normal. But then we were also on the front lines in many situations. For example, my stepbrother, Malik Bambi, he was one of the Memphis 13 who integrated Memphis City schools. So we were like pushed out there.
Yes.
And we had to behave a certain way.
Uh-huh.
We were lived in a fishbowl, if you will. And my brother and our sister, they were out there fighting for, our rights, all of our rights. My mother, instructed them, you will not cry in public. And so they tell the story of one day they were pepper sprayed. My brother was, I believe, 7, my sister 5. And they could not shed a tear. They just stood there and had to take it. And so people always say, you're just so serious. I was like, but that's the way I was raised. And the other name is Madam Good Trouble.
Okay.
Because I obstruct. I'm trying to take down the barriers that in our school system as well as our county government. And so I love those names.
Yes, ma'am. I love them too. So since we're kind of, in a way, honoring Dr. King's legacy, what does that mean to you as an educator? What does Dr. King's legacy mean to you, especially today?
He gave his life, and he sacrificed so much, not only of himself, his family, the people around him, because of things that they took. We're seeing it now. History repeats itself, and we see it. And a lot of people won't, go to the forefront, and be that person, be that leader. It takes a lot of guts and courage. And, I look around, I see some, semblance, but not at that magnitude yet.
Yeah.
I believe we have that in our community, but it takes time and it takes momentum. And I think I know 3 or 4 people I can think of who I admire.
Yes.
That I think they'll take the mantle. And so I'm, rooting for them.
Yes, ma'am. We're rooting for you because you're going to do the same thing with that mantle. I just want to tell you, I meant to tell you this earlier when we were doing your photo shoot. Your hair is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Did the children play with it when you were younger?
No, not at all. They hated my hair.
They hated your hair?
Yes. They had hated me brushing their hair. They didn't like me. No, they just, like my mother. She would ask us to brush her hair. We love to do that. And as my daughter said, she's no, why? So, no. But
I can see you being on the Pantene commercial.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. But listen, I'm thinking like the kids would maybe, you have some children that are bullies tugging on your hair because it's long and all of that. But you didn't get that.
Oh, you're talking about school?
Yeah, when you were younger.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that.
We can't talk about that. Okay, well, listen, let's go back to my next question.
Thank you.
So, let me ask you this then. Just as a lifelong Memphian, what's your fondest childhood memory?
Probably when my mother was working on her dissertation. And so we were young children. I was about 4 or 5. My little sister's 3. My older sister's like 9. And so when she was working on her dissertation, she was the first Black woman to get her PhD degree from Johns Hopkins, and the third Black woman. And so it was in languages. And so Romance languages. And so she had to do her studies in Spain. And so she had the nerve to take 3 of us, my sisters, and my cousin, to Spain. And so as a child, we stayed in the room, and so it was boring. My mom had this book that said, stay in Spain, $25 a day. We were doing all this stuff while she was researching. And I got bored because all of the programs were in Spanish. So I told my little sister, let's throw the furniture off the balcony. And the housekeeper got mad, and she threw up her arms and started cursing. I guess she was cursing. I don't know what she did, but she left. And my mom said, forget the dissertation. We're going to enjoy Spain. And we went from one end of Spain, a little Volkswagen, to the end. And I remember that. And I didn't realize how fortunate I was at that age to travel like that.
International travel at the age of 5?
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes. And so that was my fondest memory as far as, staying in Memphis, because, and also the kids around the neighborhood, there was, growing up, everybody knew each other, all the parents knew. But let me tell you this. Okay, you know how you have the candy lady? Everybody's got candy lady, right?
Yes, every community.
And so I was I was always independent, So I saw my dad was on the phone. He was babysitting me. So I was going to find that candy lady. I'm like 4 years old, right? I go around the corner. I was like, I don't know where I'm at. So I crossed Castelia. I said, I'm going to go to candy lady's house. And as I was going across the street, this old man said, hey, little girl, I got some candy for you. It was in a bag. And one of my neighbors saw me getting ready to get his car, and she started beating him over the head with it and grabbed and took me home. I was kidnapped, trying to go with the candy lady.
Oh, my goodness. You were almost kidnapped from some stranger.
Yes.
Just because you wanted some candy.
But I thought everybody was nice.
Yes.
No, because everybody came to the house,
goodness.
everybody was nice. So I thought he was going to give me a bad candy.
Well, you found out quickly, didn't you?
Yes.
So your mom getting her PhD. So your family just has a long list of accomplishments.
Yes.
And I want to take a moment to honor your background, especially with your dad, your father, Judge Russell B. Sugarmon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was a change maker in this city, and we love that. Listen, we are celebrating MLK Day today, okay?
Yes.
So in 1959, he became the first African-American to make a serious bid for a major city office.
Mm-hmm.
But, and there is a but there, that race was racially charged, and they united against him for running. But that just kind of opened the door and paved the way for so many Black leaders today.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he shared that story with you guys.
Yeah, that same exact thing happened to me. And my mama got pissed off. How dare they do that again? I was like, Mom, what? And she explained to me what happened. He was a Black man in the race, and there was 2 white men.
Mm-hmm. And what race was this specifically?
It was like the county commission. It was something else. They didn't call it county commission. It was something equivalent to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he ran, the white men decided, well, we're going to have one person run. And that way we'll split the vote. And so he lost. Same thing happened to me when I ran for city council.
Wow.
I was running against 2 white men. One of them got out. I lost about 500 votes, 1%, at 22,800 votes. I told my mom, you know what? She was pissed because she said, that same thing happened to your dad. She was really, how mamas are.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get back out there. I said, Mama, I didn't win. I'm done because I never wanted to get in politics.
Mm-hmm.
She said, Erika, 22,800 people believed in you.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you turn your back on them? Your mama tells you something.
Yeah.
You listen to your mother.
But you needed to hear that from her.
Yeah. And I did, and I won.
On MLK Day today, we are still celebrating. And you won that race later on.
That was city council race, and I ran for county commission. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I've never wanted to get into politics. I've always been behind the scenes helping other people.
It's in your blood.
That's what everybody says, but no. I like to be behind my mother.
Yes.
She was a strategist, and she was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
If you ever remember the the Black Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when all the kids in Memphis City Schools stayed home because they did not have a Black school board member. So my mom came up with the idea, okay.
Okay.
She said, if y'all want to have a Black board member, our children would stay at home. But they didn't stay at home. They went to churches. They still taught the kids. And so by the fifth Monday, they said, okay, you can have one Black, school board member.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Maxine Smith.
Yes.
And then Maxine Smith, she nominated Harrington as superintendent. So, again, one thing that I can say that, as at my age, I'm looking to mentor young people because I want to work my way out of this, And that's one thing that my dad said that his regret was that he didn't, mentor more people because there was like a vacuum of leadership. But I think that's changing. I think that's changing.
Well, we need more change makers to leave the legacy for someone else to come behind your footsteps.
Yeah.
And I believe that you're going to do just that thing. So I want to talk about just your current work. When you think about civil rights, I know you're a fighter for social justice and all of that.
Yes.
What does that look like just from your father's legacy to what you believe in now and what you're doing now?
Well, my passion has always been the youth, and so justice involved youth ordinances. I've written two of them. One of them dealt with when children are arrested, that when they're interrogated, they have to be recorded. Before, they were not being recorded. It was always their word against law enforcement.
And they could be coerced.
Exactly. And the fact that adults are recorded, but children were not. So now they have to be recorded. The other thing is that an attorney has to be present. Before it's optional. So an attorney has to be present when the children are interrogated. And so those are my favorite ordinances. I've also written things like, for example, the unions, as far as pay parity for people who are doing the same job but getting different pay in the county government. Also, living wages increase, so they're getting $20.77 an hour, and so go on and on and on. So, but the first 3 years. The 3 years, I've just been writing.
Yeah.
But people don't realize it takes a lot of research for one ordinance. Those two right there, it took almost 9 months because once you write them, they will have to be reviewed by attorneys. The judges want to see them. They have to go out of the community and get them.
And currently, you're writing your own.
I've been writing my own. And who taught me? Ha-ha.
Okay.
That's a surprise.
Yes.
So back in 2002, when Bush was president, he had this bill called No Child Left Behind.
I remember
And
that.
all the kids got left behind.
Yes.
And my students, my 12th graders, came to my room. They were crying. And I asked them, what's wrong? They said they were mad because all they do is test. And I said, well, that's a law. And they said, but our teachers don't have time to work with us with our, papers and our letters to try to get into college and things of that nature. And they were frustrated. I said, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm just a kid. What do you mean? I said, well, you can do something about it. Why don't you write a bill? And they said, I don't know how to write a bill. So I called Lee Harris. He was a law professor. I said, my children want to write a bill. Can you show us how to do it? He came and showed us how to do it. And so we wrote a bill. We went to the state, and the kids, they battled it out. I mean, they were going at it. That bill did not pass. It was to limit the number of testing. But since then, my students have written several bills. And so I've been writing law for about 20 years. And that's how it started.
So had you always thought about maybe going into the law field?
I did. My dad told me no.
But your brother's in the law field.
Well, I'm his daughter.
Yes.
He said no. He said there's not enough money.
Okay.
And he said, you're not going to, he was always broke.
Yeah.
He said, it's not lucrative. Okay. And so then I became a teacher. He's like, what? I'm still broke. Okay. So, so.
Well, being an attorney can be pretty lucrative. I guess it depends on the field, the specialty.
I took his advice.
Yes. Yes, because 27 years later, you are an educator.
Yeah.
You did.
Yes.
Let me just kind of go on and talk about District 12.
Okay.
What does those areas include?
Top golf. We have pickleball. We don't have a community center. I have been working for a couple years. I'm trying to get a YMCA. We're finally getting some of our streets widened. It's an area that's been neglected, and I'll tell you why. It consists of City of Memphis, unincorporated, a little bit of Germantown, and a little bit of Collierville. So when there's an issue, everybody points their finger at each other, and we don't get those resources, and that's a huge issue. And so that is why Southwind decided we're not going to be part of Memphis anymore.
Yes.
We don't get any
Yeah,
resources.
they're unincorporated.
Yes, because they don't get any resources. We still don't get any resources. And so that's a big fight between the county commission and the city council. And my district, oh my gosh, I love them.
Yes.
They'll tell me the problems and the solutions, and then they'll come fight. So I'm really excited.
So as far as the vicinity, are we Fox Meadows? Where are we with
No,
District
Hickory
12?
Hill, unincorporated, always is State Line Road, part of Collierville, part of Germantown. So it's like it's a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
But the people of the community are well educated. They're mainly Black women.
We love that.
And we have a lot of power. And I tell them all the time, y'all my bosses. And they believe it. And they send me letters and emails and they call me, and one thing I do is I answer my own emails within 48 hours.
You are accessible.
Yes. 901-292-7968. But you have to give me your zip code because you have to live in my district. 292-7968.
Commissioner, I love that. You are accessible.
Yeah.
You're making sure that for your constituents, I'm here. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you. You present your problems, and together we're going to come up with a solution.
That's what public servants do.
Yes.
They serve the public.
Well, amen to that. On MLK Day, we are serving the public. Martin Luther King did just that.
Yes.
He served the public.
Yes.
He was the epitome of a leader who served. MLK Day, you guys. So, I know, District 12 is such like a vibrant part about, our county. So if you had a free Friday night, and I say that loosely because I know you're busy and work 7 days a week. So I say this loosely. If you had a free Friday night and you could only pick one local restaurant in the district for dinner, where are you going?
No, because,
She told me no.
No, this is why. My former students are running my campaign. And they're so competitive. And so they came up with this jingle or whatever. And then my current students, they got mad, said, why did you ask us? And so they came up with their own rap, right? And so to say about restaurants, one of my one of the millennials had said, we're going to do a taste across District 12 where we go into different restaurants and we're going to kind of grade them, if you will, and try to boost up their sales. And so that's why I don't want to say this restaurant is better than that restaurant because no. I'm not doing
So have you did the Taste of District 12? Is that something that's coming up?
It starts Thursday.
Really? Is this a week-long campaign?
I don't know. Yeah, that's my millennials. They got me doing TikTok. And then I started getting good at TikTok. And I started doing all this animation. And they're like, Sugarman, stop. Please stop.
I don't have TikTok, but I did see your video of your campaign song type of thing.
And we're running?
Yes. And
that's millennials. And then I made one of Superman. I took off the Sugarman. No.
But the guy who's rapping your campaign, your spiel, I thought that was so cute.
Yes.
What's his name? Mr. Woods? Is Jay Woods or
yes,
something?
DJ Woods.
DJ
now
Woods.
He's the one that's going to be going around, different restaurants, tasting the food.
Yeah.
Because he claims that he's increased restaurants' bottom line. So I said, okay, let's do this. So we'll see what happens.
I love that. So we know that there's some big landmarks and whatnot in District 12. What is one hidden gem that you wish that people in Memphis knew about?
Well, I'll probably say we have a soccer ball field that people don't know about. We got some other fields that I didn't know about until recent, until my community started complaining about it. And
What's
so
that?
I don't want to go into that,
Okay.
but I'm just saying. So we got a lot of things going on. We also have a skateboard park that we're working on, and that should
Okay.
open in the spring.
Mhm.
And it's at Lawrence Park. And also we're gonna renovate, Highland Oaks Park,
Mhm.
and that's all under the past 3 years I've been working
Okay.
on, so
Yeah.
and then also 25 cameras in my district, so yeah.
Now that's
Mhm.
much needed. Security, we
Yes,
wanna feel safe.
yes. So I've got a lot.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
when the roads are messed up,
Uh-huh.
I can tell you, I've been working with shout out to Darren Sanders, because within a week, he has
Mhm.
it fixed. He don't wanna deal with my constituents. He
I
does not.
see.
But he's good. I
Yeah.
mean, he's very, responsive.
Mhm.
So when
Mhm.
they reach out to him, he responds.
Mhm.
Mm,
We love that.
yeah.
Another public servant at heart,
Yes.
the heart for the people. We love that. So you're an educator of 27 years. You're just 3 years away from 30,
Mhm,
and you teach 12th graders
mhm,
at White Station
mhm.
High. What's your favorite subject to teach?
Probably 2, psychology and US government. And I've taught
Mhm.
over 8,000 students. No matter where I go in the city, I've taught somebody,
Yeah.
or the parents know me everywhere. And so it's, sometimes scared to get certain services 'cause I'm like,
Mhm.
"I teach you," that kind of thing.
We spoke earlier about, your, history as a teacher, and we spoke about how being in 12th grade, that very integral part of making a decision
Mhm,
of where you're going now.
mhm.
Once you graduate, what's your next move?
Right.
And so you're there kinda at the helm of helping them make a good decision or an educated decision based on, just helping them with things they may not even know about.
Yeah, we talk about, going to the military, trade school versus college, how you're gonna pay for college, what your credit score should look like. We talk about being an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's real life things.
Mhm.
We talk about politics even.
Yeah.
And I told my students, I said, at the local level, state level, chief executive has to balance the budget. At the federal level, the president does not have to balance the budget. And so I asked my students, I said, what is the current debt in the United States?
Mhm.
And they said, tell us. I know you look it up. They said, oh my God, it's almost 40 trillion. I said, you know what? Last semester was like 34, 35. So in 6 months,
Mhm.
think about it, how fast it's growing. And you guys are going to fix the debt.
Yeah.
You're going to have to fix the economy.
Mhm.
You're going to have to fix healthcare. You're going to have to fix the school system. I started listening to all these things. They're like, oh, no. I said, well, I'll be dead and gone.
Mhm.
But as long as
Mhm.
I'm here, I'll
Yeah.
try to help you all. But we put a lot on them,
Mhm.
and they're scared.
Yeah.
And they said that they need more healthcare, and they said that they have issues with social skills,
Mhm.
and when they're together, they instead of socializing with each other, they'll be on the phone,
Mhm.
texting and stuff.
Mhm.
They're the text generation,
Yeah, this generation is different.
The Gen
Yes, for
Zs,
sure, for
and I'm
sure.
really concerned about
Mhm.
them because they have so much to shoulder. The millennials, I'm not really. They got their thing going.
Mhm.
They are cohesive. They work together. They're
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, you know, and they keep leveling each other up, they say.
Yeah.
But the Gen Zs I'm concerned about.
Okay, well, I feel that in your position now,
Mhm,
not just as a commissioner, but as an educator, you kind of be able to kind of steer them in that right direction.
mhm.
Maybe they don't have, the information needed to make a good decision. But as a 12th grade teacher,
Oh, yeah, we talk about different
yeah.
things, and, like, we have current event articles, and they select the topic.
Mhm.
Like, they wanna say, "What is DEI? What is, critical race?
Mhm.
What is this, that, and the other?"
Mhm.
And so I said, "Okay, do y'all wanna talk about it?" And I put it on the board, all the
Yeah.
topics for the whole semester, whole 9 weeks. And so the assistant principal came in to evaluate me. He looked at my board, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, they did it.
Uh-huh.
They select the topics, and
Yeah.
I put it on the board because they want to know."
Mhm.
And I tell them, I said, "I don't care what I say, what's in your books, what you see on TV or social media. Be critical thinkers,
Yes.
not dependent learners,
Mhm.
and double check. Double
Mhm.
check what I say."
Yeah.
You know, and
Critical thinkers.
they'll be looking up stuff. Yeah, she's right about that. Things like that.
Mhm.
So,
Critical thinker.
yep.
I like that. I like
Mhm.
that. Looking at your last 3 years, we know you focus heavily on people families and fairness. One major win was sponsoring and passing parental leave for Shelby County employees. Why was that specific piece of legislation so personal or just urgent for you to get done?
That's one of three.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because, it's critical for both parents to be with their child, whether it's a naturally born child, adopted child, whatever, because it's a bonding period. And so over there in other countries, for example, they have like 6 months to 9 months off paid leave. And that's what at least we can do for our Shelby County employees. The other one, we abolished solitary confinements for adults and juveniles, just above youth. And so we're the first county in the South to do that. That was not my ordinance. I didn't write that one. That was written by Jerry Green.
Okay.
But I sponsored it.
Wow. So that was 2.
No, both of them. Solitary confinement for adults.
Okay. And then the one for the juvenile. Okay. And I know we talked about you write your own resolutions and you make sure it's legal. So how is a resolution crafted? What are the steps for that when you're kind of researching on your own if you were to teach your students?
You first have to have a problem.
Okay.
Once you see the problem, then you have to research the history. And then you have to determine whether or not what you want to do is legal. And so you have to support your ordinances with data. And so once you craft it, and then at that point, the attorney will say, okay, you can do this or you can't do that. And then they make, the one I used to have, they took me her way, Marcy Ingram, she would look at it and say, well, I would recommend you do this, that, and the other. And I said, well, no, that's not my intent. Or, okay, that's fine. And we'll discuss it. And so once that's done, then I have to determine, okay, how does it impact the people? Is it just involve youth? Then I need to talk to the judges. I need to talk to various entities, the community, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a process.
It is. But you've made some progress. You've made some progress with some of the resolutions that you've passed. And with progress, there's always some pushback. So what are some that you would like to share? Just some of your experiences.
The latest one I would say would be this: the 5 school board members, through a resolution that I did not support, requires them to run for re-election, even though they have not served their full term. And so when you bridge another elected official's term in office, think about the long-term impact that's going to have. Not the short term, but the long term. And what are you saying to voters who voted these 5 individuals, but their vote didn't count? You're disenfranchising the voters. And so what I did was I wrote a resolution to say that these 5 individuals would not have to run for re-election in 2026, but serve their full term.
Well, we are now in 2026.
And my resolution failed. And it's in court. And the attorney, Alan Wade, said, look, if Sugarmon's resolution passes, then the lawsuit is moot. It's over. And so he said, I would get paid, if we go and adjudicate it and everything. And they still didn't know.
Well, again, you've made a lot of progress and you have a pushback on this particular issue. And this just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But you're not going to stop fighting.
No, but I am fiscally conservative because we waste a lot of taxpayers' money.
Yes, ma'am.
And
I love
so
that.
what I want to make sure that people know is that I look at the whole picture before I vote. And on every vote, and I vote unless it deals with juvenile court, because people ask me to stand down because my brother is a juvenile court judge, which I could vote. So I don't vote with that, or the school system, their budget, because I'm a teacher. That's a conflict of interest. But I always vote. And people, they may not agree with my position, but they know my position.
Yeah.
And most of them agree.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Listen, these last 3 years have been a whirlwind for you, right? So as we look towards your re-election, what is it about District 12 specifically that you just love so much?
I love my constituents. They're so smart and they're so energized, and we all want the same thing. We want to maintain our homes, our community, like any community.
Of course.
We want to just be able to retire in peace,
And
because
your eyes just sparkle when you speak about them.
yes, they're amazing.
What keeps you energized to fight? You love the people, you love your constituents, but what keeps you energized?
My students.
Your students.
Yes. They keep me young.
Mm-hmm.
They always come up with these terms I don't know about. I'm like, what does that mean? And sometimes they'll explain it, but this last one, you got to find out on your own. So I've been asking people, what does this mean? What does that mean? And nobody knows.
Well, that's because you do it to them. You ask them.
Okay, what does
They
6,
say, what do you
7
mean?
mean?
What does 6, 7 mean?
Yes.
I'm gonna listen to the next part. I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. Tell you the
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna look
It's
it
a
up.
little bit, I think. I don't know.
Listen, what does 6, 7 mean? Y'all put it in the
Might be a
comments
bad thing.
because we don't know.
Might be a bad thing. I don't know.
So, Commissioner, if you were granted another term, what are the much needed implementations that are on the top of your list?
To continue, one thing that the Shelby County government does not do is that we do not allow the opportunity for people of color, in particular Black people, to win grants. It's not a level playing field. I want to make sure it's leveled. So everybody has a fair opportunity, not only people of color, but local people.
Okay. Why is that? So why is that not fair enough for those to apply
Because
for
less than
grants?
10% of Black people receive contracts as while I was in office, and I fought tooth and nail. And now, since I know the system, okay, and since I did not receive support, I didn't have an assistant for the majority of the time that I was commissioner. At first it pissed me off, but then I was able to understand and work the system. So now I can work the system.
Okay.
I don't need assistance.
Okay.
It's called institutional knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
That I gained the first year I was there.
On MLK Day. It's called institutional knowledge. So what is some of the unfinished business that you need to complete?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Make millionaires.
Make millionaires.
Yes.
So entrepreneurs applying for being part of the Shelby County network or City of Memphis.
Or to bid for the contracts.
Yes.
It's not a level playing field. And anybody in the commission could tell you that. It's not a level playing field in city council either. They need to be doing the same thing. Why is Atlanta booming and Memphis is not? We have a lot of monopolies we need to break up.
Okay. Yeah. Did y'all hear that? We have a lot of monopolies that we need to break up right here in the city.
That's right.
My goodness. I'm going to pause for the calls right there and let that sink in. So let's talk about environmental justice.
Okay.
I know that's become like a louder conversation in the city. So what can the citizens of District 12 do to hold leaders accountable when it comes to the quality of their water and their air and their soil? That's a loaded question, isn't it?
No, it's not. Because back when we had Dr. Taylor over the health department, she said something very profound. She said that our land, water, and air zoning regulations have not been updated since the 1950s when we had redlining. And so that allowed all kinds of things to happen to certain neighborhoods. And she said it was up to the commission to make those changes. I heard it loud and clear. But the people of Memphis got misled and blamed her and the health department when they didn't have the power to do anything about it. We lost a wonderful, smart
she was amazing
woman. So I and other individuals in the environmental communities sat down and started to write zoning ordinances, and that's when my attorney got snatched from me. So at that point, I reached out to the national level, and then that's when people started coming after me. So that's put on hold until after the election.
Wow.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting that one.
I'm honest.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. We want you to be honest
Mhm.
on this MLK Day. Uh, now, I want to go to your personal Facebook page. I read this post and it just really inspired me. When women lead, communities rise.
That's right.
Every time a woman steps into her power, she opens a door for countless others to dream bigger, push further, and believe in what's possible. And I feel like you're doing just that. Do you feel like you are really that woman who's leading, your community is rising, and you're stepping into your power?
Oh, definitely. I see it with my students. I see it with my own children.
Mhm.
I see it with my nieces and nephews. I see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Tell me about your campaign for District 12. What are your focal points?
There's a lot. The main ones that I'm hearing from my constituents is that they want to control the growth as far as who comes in to develop and how it's developed. We're inundated right now with gas stations, storage facilities, payday loans. They're killing our property values. They're killing the economic development. And so there is no planning, if you will. When the planning, the city planning and the county planning, they don't come to us and ask us, what do we want? They tell us, and we're not going to take it.
Okay, so that's one of the items. Is there another?
That's the main item.
That's the main item.
Yes, to be able to develop our communities the way we want.
Mhm.
Not to be told that to allow this gas station to be allowed here or that storage for no, no.
So it's money over people. Is what it seems like right now. It's whatever, revenue they can get from businesses over people
Right, but
and their families and communities.
we're telling the businesses,
Mhm.
you have to deal with us,
Mhm.
and they've been meeting with us. They got the message. We ran off a gas station, a storage facility, apartment complex. They come to us, and we work together. We work with them,
Mhm.
but let's talk.
Yeah.
Don't tell us
Let's
anything.
have a conversation.
Yes.
Mhm. So is there anything that I didn't ask that you want our viewers and our readers and followers to know?
Yes, we all have a responsibility to support each other in this time of crisis. What we're seeing in our country today is that the leadership wants the working class people, the black and brown people, the poor whites to just come at each other, fight for these menial jobs,
Mhm.
while the rich 1% are running to the bank every day. They're creating all this chaos. So it's not a race war that's going on. They're being misled. It is a class war. And what we're seeing in the United States is a shrinking of the middle class.
Mhm.
First time you have more people leaving this country than coming to this country.
Yeah.
They're whitewashing the whole country. So we need to be mindful because the problem is that in 2050, white people will be the minority. That's their problem. That's their problem.
On this MLK Day, that is their problem. So, Commissioner, how can people join in this fight with you? How can they follow you and
901
donate to your campaign and all that good stuff?
901-292-7968. And just text me and I'll send you the link. It's Anadot, but and also we need volunteers. We need boots on the
Mhm.
ground.
Yeah.
So I know, people don't really have money. I understand that.
Mhm.
I'm a teacher in the classroom, but I need boots on the ground.
Mhm. Now listen, on this MLK Day, if you're calling her, texting her, make sure you have a legit problem. Don't just call and text just because you have this thought in your head that it's a good idea and to worry this lady. This lady is working on behalf of your district. So call her with something legit and not just because you can cash your check. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, as we close out on this MLK
Oh
Day,
my God.
I want to end with this famous Dr. King quote. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And I want to thank you, Commissioner Sugarman, for having the courage, just like your father and your mother, to make a move towards building a better district and a better Shelby County.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Like and subscribe, y'all. Hit that button for the Bluff City Magazine, and be sure to follow us on all platforms. Bluff City Magazine. Amanda Avery signing off. It's been a pleasure on this MLK Day.